Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right, so bowl season has been interesting because this bowl season, we have seen something we usually don't get to see in college football, which is all of the projected top quarterbacks in this draft class have played in the postseason, which kind of tells you that this draft class at quarterback's not that strong, because usually if there's like a top 10 pick at quarterback, that guy does not have the need to play. But all of these quarterbacks have played in the postseason, right? All of them trying to prove something on where they belong in this draft class. And I would say all the top three guys, right? Milroe, Sanders, and Ward all had pretty bad weeks that kind of confirm a lot of the negativity about them as prospects. Cam Ward had that weird situation where he sat out that second half of the Miami game. He plays out of structure. We know this. Very talented player, great arm talent, all of those things. I've watched Cam Ward in person when he lost to Georgia Tech. He, to me, the reason I'm not a big fan of him in the first round is simply because he cannot play in structure. If you are going to be the quarterback for like half the offenses in the NFL, you need to be able to play in structure. And here's the key part. I don't think he's good enough out of structure for that to translate to the NFL. We can point to Pat Mahomes doing what he's done in the league, but even he's had to change up how he plays. Caleb Williams is, up and down his rookie year, but Caleb Williams, I think, is one of the most spectacular out of structure prospects you've ever seen, right? Like up there with how Mahomes looked in college at times. That's not where Cam Ward is. So he can't play in structure. I think the only way for him to be the best quarterback he could be is if he plays in structure. And he's played so much football that if he could play in structure, you would think he would have done it by now. That to me is the big concern with Cam Ward. The decision making is erratic. I just think this is how he likes to play football. And if you draft Cam Ward thinking that you're going to get him to throw on time and be in the pocket and do all these things that Cam Ward has historically not done his whole career, you're begging yourself to basically ruin a guy, or not even ruin a guy, to waste your time, right? That's just a recipe to waste your time. So I'm not in on Cam Ward. The weirdness about him sitting out that bowl game, I don't like it. Like, I know some people are going to say it doesn't matter because it's a bowl game. We should just be happy if he plays. Here's how I see this. If the only reason you suited up was to get a record for yourself, then you shouldn't have suited up at all, because that's selfish. Like, straight up, that's selfish. And I haven't heard enough people hit on this. But if you're going to, like, either you're going to suit up and play the whole game, or you're going to suit up and not play at all. I mean, not suit up and not play at all. Because if you don't suit up, at least the team gets the game plan around somebody else. And they get to prepare a different quarterback to play and get used to the ideal of that quarterback plan and tailor a game plan around whoever's going to play. But if you're going to play a half, you're basically just screwing your team. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't care what the excuse is. If Mario Cristobal said that he was going to pull him in the first half, nah. If he thought that there was a chance he wasn't going to play, he should have recused himself from that game. And if he was going to play, he should have played. Right? Like, that's just what it is. I have no problem with somebody deciding it's too much of a risk, I'm not going to play. But I have a problem with somebody doing the half measure. It doesn't feel right to me. And I know a lot of people don't care about that, or people are just going to point out how well he played in that first half. I think there's something to, like, sitting out the second half. Like, your team, 2 minutes left, and you're not even begging to come back in the game. I don't know. Maybe this is more too football guy of me and not about process and analytics and stuff, but I don't mess with that at all. It rubs me the wrong way. It gives me the ick. And, like, it's different when it's not the quarterback position, right? If he was like a wide receiver and he came in because he wanted to get like a receiving record, it wouldn't bother me because like I don't expect a wide receiver to be a leader of a team. So if they do something selfish, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're the quarterback and you do something that like feels that selfish, like it did with Cam Ward, where he just came in, got his shit and left. Yeah, it rubs me the wrong way because what kind of leadership is that? Like you're the quarterback of the team, you're going to be expected to be a leader. And this is the kind of stuff that matters to me, right? Like, how are you not staying out there? How are you not trying to get out there with your guys, right? Like, or was this purely about you trying to get a record? Like, this is the kind of stuff that people can go too far with, but there's something there with it when it comes to quarterback, right? With the leadership just not being there with Ward, or at least that moment showing something that concerns me as far as his leadership ability would be at the next level. It's not the main reason I'm out on him. It's probably like one of the smallest knocks I have on him at the end of the day, but it is something I think about with him, right? I think the bigger knocks are about his play style, his ability to translate that play style, and all that other stuff. But yeah, that's something that I can't ignore about him. So yeah, I'm out on Cam Ward in the first round for all of those reasons and more. I'll do a film breakdown explaining this in more detail eventually. Shador Sanders, I've already done the film breakdown on him. I'm not high on him at all either. I think the level of competition stuff is real for him. I think it looks way different as far as like, I know he's like super accurate. He's a very accurate passer. If you chart his completion percentages and his adjusted completion percentages, he is very accurate. And it looks like a franchise quarterback potentially when you watch him against some of these teams that he's playing. But whenever the talent gets ratcheted up, all that stuff goes away with him. It just doesn't look the same. He's not making the same clear decisions. He's not seeing the field as well. He's not able to deliver the ball with the same amount of accuracy and touch. He's just not the same player. And that's when he plays better than average college football competition. This is somebody who barely played elite college football competition. Only one game versus an elite college football team, and that was last year's Oregon team that he didn't look good at against them at all. He hasn't really played like an Ohio State or Georgia, this year's Oregon squad. Like he hasn't played that level of team last year, Michigan, right? Like he hasn't played the top of college football, and we're still worried about how it looks when he plays better teams. That to me is a giant red flag not to take that guy in the first round. And then we get to Jalen Milroe, who we saw today. And like, I think Jalen Milroe was like the last light left for a lot of people as far as first round quarterbacks go, or even second round quarterbacks go. And that light just died today because I think Jalen Milroe almost has to go back to college after this game. I think he has to use his grad transfer and transfer somewhere, right? Because he graduated already. He doesn't have to be in the portal, right? He could just straight up transfer somewhere. I think he has to use his grad transfer, go to somewhere like Notre Dame and work on a couple of things here, right? Because with Jalen Milroe, there's a lot of good. I think the intangibles with him are off the charts. Not enough people talk about the fact that that young man is a academic Heisman candidate winner. Not enough people talk about the fact that he graduated in 3 years and got his master's degree in 4 years. I mean, that's insanely impressive if you don't play football. If you are aware of what a student athlete schedule is like, that is amazing that he's able to do that. His intangibles are off the chart. But his measurables are off the chart, right? And he's a spectacular athlete, probably the best athlete in college football, period. The problem with Jalen Milroe is that he has so much to work on with his passing game. Now, I think a lot of people get caught up with like how some of his downfield accuracy, his downfield passes look. That's not where I get caught up with Jalen Milroe. There's a way for him to work, even if he's not going to be the most accurate passer in the world. But what that requires is that he's able to see the field clearly in the middle of the field and make quick decisions as a passer to get rid of the ball quickly. The big fatal flaw I've seen with Milroe isn't really about his accuracy as a passer or his ability to throw the football, even though clearly that stuff needs work, right? He's not the most graceful thrower of the football. I don't think anybody would say that about him. But where he needs the most work is his pocket work, right? He holds the ball way too long. When he doesn't hold the ball, he's like spinning out and making these sacks worse. Like, just look at how many bad sacks he took in this bowl game versus Michigan. And look how many times that put him behind the sticks. And he's not the type of quarterback that can survive behind the sticks, because the problem with Jalen Milroe is that he doesn't have that downfield accuracy. He doesn't have much creativity and vision when he's breaking out there and throwing on the run. Like, that's just not part of his game. He's not very good at that. So when you put him in a situation where he either has to see the field or, make something happen downfield with his arm, he's not going to be able to do that consistently. He's a guy who absolutely 100% is going to need to stay ahead of the sticks. And I think what makes him intriguing as a prospect is his athletic ability. The reason that makes him intriguing is because you feel like, hey, you can always stay ahead of the sticks with Jalen Milroe. But if he can't get himself to a better place in his pocket presence to not take some of these nasty sacks that he be taking, then what he could do with his legs is irrelevant. So he needs to work on that for a whole season. He needs to go back to college and, work on his second master's degree, probably at Notre Dame or Georgia Tech, right? Like somewhere that's going to let him do what he does, but also let him work on some of the more traditional stuff he needs to work on. I think that's probably where he needs to go. I doubt that he returns to Alabama, because the way Alabama works, it's a factory. You can't be there but like 3 years at Alabama, right? So that's where the quarterback class is right now, right? Like, Dillon Gabriel's another guy that, he plays in the playoffs tonight. Well, not tonight, but tomorrow. I like him. His tape's really nice, but the problem with Dillon Gabriel is I'm worried that he's going to come in with a small hand measurement and a slower 40 time than I would want, right? If Dillon Gabriel comes in, he measures 10-inch hands and he has like a 4.6 40, then I feel much better about drafting a guy like that, like in the third round. But if he has like 9.5-inch hands and he runs like a 4.8 40, then that you're starting to think about him as a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, right? So the way this quarterback class looks like is there's not really much to think about before pick 90, right? I think once you get to pick 90, you can start thinking about taking some of these guys. But before pick 90, I personally would avoid it. Then that's late third round, right? For those of you who don't know the draft order off the top of your head, that's late third round, basically, right? Like, if it's not late to comp third, then I'm good on taking quarterback in the first 2 days of the draft. And I think that's where a lot of teams are going to end up. I know there's always this energy to kind of push a quarterback or to draft a quarterback. And look, some teams going to take a quarterback in the first round, probably. Some teams probably going to take a quarterback in the second round. But I just can't imagine that the majority of NFL scouts look at this quarterback class and say, hey, man, we got to take a guy here. And I get that people are making the point that, hey, what if this underlooked player was in this draft class? I've heard people bring up, if Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback in this draft class, will we be high on him? I think that's a little bit different, because Lamar Jackson was a Heisman Trophy winner, and none of these quarterbacks are even close to being Heisman Trophy winners. Like Justin Herbert was a much better prospect than anybody in this class. Josh Allen was a much better prospect than anybody in this class. Like, if these guys just aren't good prospects, that's the problem, right? Like, look at the 2022 class. That was the same problem with the 2022 class. There wasn't a lot of great prospects. And yes, the 49ers got lucky at the end of the draft with Brock Purdy, but literally every other quarterback in that draft class stunk. So it is what it is this year. There's just no quarterback in this class. And if there's no quarterbacks in this class that you would take in the first, 90 picks, or you could really justify it, if there's no quarterback in this class that you feel like could be the guy or should be the guy based on their body of work in college, then you really should avoid it until pick 90 or later, right? Now, if we're talking about pick 90 or later, I have no problem taking a guy pick 90 or later. I'm team take a chance, pick 90 or later. I don't care what you do. Pick 90 or later because it's all bonus. If you hit on somebody, pick 90 or later, cool, awesome. If you don't, doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt you that much. As long as you draft well at the top of the draft. Yeah, so, I know a lot of Browns fans are eager to want to solve this quarterback problem, and that eagerness might push you to want to have something figured out this offseason. But the truth is, this just ain't the offseason where you're going to find that answer at quarterback. You got to just do what you can to build around the position to make sure it's easier to play quarterback and win games for the Cleveland Browns in this upcoming season. And then once you get to 2026, you get to 2027, you try to get your guy and then develop that guy, right? Because right now I could tell you I have 3 or 4 quarterbacks that I would take right now over the quarterbacks in this draft class. It's just not a strong class for quarterback, especially if you're looking for a day 1 answer or a day 2 answer. Now, if we're talking about pick 90 or later, there might be some guys there that you can go and value shop with. But yeah, I'm not feeling any of this before pick 90. And what I saw with Milroe definitely confirmed that to me. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.